Okay, so today we start Kuf Chaf Dalet Amid Bais. It's about halfway down. Today's daf is Kuf Chaf Hey. We're starting Kuf Chaf Dalet. So we learned before in the Mishnah that if there's two hafzeisim that are attached to skin, it's Machlekes Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Kiva. If you touch them, if you're going to be tamei, because it's only half a zayas. But Rabbi Shmuel holds, no, sorry, that's not a machlekes. Everyone holds that that's tahar if you touch it. Rabbi Shmuel holds that if you lift it, it's going to be tamei. Okay, so Bar Pada said that when is it tahar for touching? That's only if you touch the back, the hide. But if you touch the actual flesh, that's going to be tamei. That's what Bar Pada said. So Masav Rav Ukva Bar Chama. Rav Ukva Bar Chama asks a question. B'nivlasam, the pasuk says b'nivlasam, in their carcass. V'loi ba'or sheyesh alav beis chatzoi zeisim. See, b'nivlasam needs to be a kazayas. It says if someone touches it, but not in the flesh, that has half a zayas. Yachalaf b'masik. Maybe that applies also to lifting it up. Talmud Leimar v'hanaisa yitma. No, lifting it up. V'hanaisa, someone that carries it. The fact is, when you lift it up, you actually lift it up a full kazayas. So even though when you touch it, you're only touching half a kazayas, but when you lift it, v'hanaisa yitma, the one that carries it is tamei. He lifted a real kazayas. Div Rabbi Shmuel. That's what Rabbi Shmuel says. Rabbi Kiva says, Hanegea v'hanaisa. Someone that touches and someone that lifts.
He's machmer, basically.
Rabbi Shmuel is machmer.
No, Rabbi Akiva, because he says whether you touch it or you pick it up.
No, 1 second. Wait for Rabbi Akiva.
Oh, sorry.
Rabbi Akiva's doing a... Rabbi Akiva's doing...
Wait for it. Now.
Rabbi Akiva's doing...
If I don't follow now, then I'm going to...
Oh, no, Rabbi Akiva's making a comparison.
Okay.
Let me tell you what he's going to say. According to Rabbi Akiva, you don't need any of this. What Rabbi Kiva is about to say, it's not necessary. Rabbi Kiva says that the flesh is buttled to the skin and it's make as if it's not there. What Rabbi Kiva is doing is he's challenging Rabbi Shmuel. He says Rabbi Shmuel holds that if you lift it, you're going to be tamei. Rabbi Kiva is going to tell him that you're only tamei if you can touch it. And if you can't touch it, then even lifting doesn't matter. That's what he wants to tell him. So he's arguing on Rabbi Shmuel's terms. On Rabbi Shmuel, you say that you're agreeing that you can't touch it, but you can only lift it. Let me tell you something. If you can't touch it, you can't lift it. It says, Hanagea v'hanaisi. It says by both of them, Yitma. So, Es shebalach lal maga, something that comes to the category of touching, balach lal masa. Then that comes to the category of lifting. But loy balach lal maga, if it doesn't come to the category of touching, loy balach lal masa, then it doesn't come to the category of lifting. Okay? V'misa, and if we're going to accept... That's what Rabbi Kiva tells Rabbi Shmuel. So therefore, he's telling Rabbi Shmuel that yes, you've lifted a full kazayas. However, it doesn't matter because if you can't touch it, you can't. Then you lifting it doesn't count. Now, that's a Mishnah or a Brisa. We're going to have it in our Mishnah. But this may be a quote from a Bais. So the concept we're going to have in the next Mishnah, but it could be this is a quote from a Bais. V'emisa, and if it's true what Bar Pada says that you can touch it from the front, from the actual flesh, you only can't touch it through the hide. That's what Rabbi Shmuel holds. You follow? Rabbi Shmuel said in the Mishnah that if you touch it, you're tar. Comes along Bar Pada and says that that's only if you touch the hide your tar, because it's not considered a yad or a shaymer for such a small amount, for half a kazayas. But if you actually touch the flesh itself, you'll be tamei. V'emisa, and if it's true, Bar Pada's statement, harei balach lal maga milfanav, you can touch it. Rabbi Akiva's statement is not accurate. Rabbi Akiva's complaint to Rabbi Shmuel that if you can't touch it, you can't lift it. Well, guess what? You can touch it from the front, from the actual flesh. So Rabbi Akiva didn't tell him anything. Amar Rava. So Rava says, Hachi Kamar. This is what he means. Oh, thank you. Eshaba lechlal maga b'chol tzad ba lechlal masa. Loi ba lechlal maga b'chol tzad. Loi ba lechlal masa.
Thank you, Mark. Great.
So it has to come. You have to be able to touch from all sides. Rav is giving a very easy answer. Rabbi Akiva's statement is that something that you can touch, you can also give off tumah when you lift it. Something that you can't touch, you can't give off tumah when you lift it. He's just adding. He says it needs to be that you can touch it from both sides. But if you can't touch it from both sides, then it doesn't give off tumah from lifting. So it's an easy answer. And therefore, Barpada makes sense, and Rabbi Akiva's statement makes sense to Rabbi Shmuel. That how can you say that by lifting it you're tamei, but if you touch it you're not tamei, and it needs to be equal. If you can touch it, then lifting it makes you tamei. The answer is that yes, if you touch it you can become tamei, but that's not enough to make lifting tamei unless you can touch it from all sides, which you can't. Okay, boy mini Rav Avya Saba May. The Yavitz corrects this to Rav Huna. It's important. Rav Avya Saba asks of Rav Huna, Kulis stumul Rabbi Shmuel mahu shetetame. You see, we're going to have a Mishnah soon that's going to say a kulis is the femur, right? It's the upper bone that has the socket, the ball and socket at the end of it. So it has marrow inside, and when the Mishnah says, the Mishnah later on says that if it's totally sealed, that means there's no hole getting into the marrow, so it doesn't give off a tumah for nevela. So,
But does it give off?
it'll give off tumah if it's a human. If it has a hole in it, then it will give off tumah as nevela as well. The bones of a nevela are not tameh, so it needs to have flesh. But it's shomer, but it's not. If it's a shomer that's totally sealed, then so it's not. Then it's not. It doesn't act as a shomer.
So that's what the question is.
So here, the question is to Rabbi Shmuel. Isli le Rabbi Shmuel shabalach lal maga balach lal masa, loy balach lal maga loy balach lal masa. Now, when we mentioned Kula Stuma, we said Tahirim. And even and the Mishnah says that the Mishnah concludes that it's Tahir even b'masa. The Mishnah concludes it's Tahir even b'masa. Now, the reason why it's Tahir b'masa is because since you can't touch it, so you also can't, when you lift it, you don't become Tameh. So, Rav Avya's question is, does Rabbi Shmuel agree with this, Esraba b'chal masa, and he would hold that a kula stuma is also tahar? Or maybe, and so why by us do we say that a half azayas, if you lift it, you're tameh, because you can touch it from the front? Or maybe he doesn't hold of this whole Esraba b'chal maga. He argues with Rabbi Akiva. He doesn't hold of the whole thing. He would hold the kula stuma is also tameh, even though you can't touch it. That whole thing of Esraba, only something that you can touch, you can lift, only something that when you touch it become tummy, when you lift it you become tummy. That's Rabbi Akiva's claim. Rabbi Shmuel doesn't hold of that. Or maybe he does hold of it, and he holds a kulas tumah as tar. However, why by the two half azesim, when you lift it, you're going to be tamei, because you can touch it from the front, not from the back. Maybe he does hold of Esraba b'chal maga, but if you can touch it from one side, that's enough for him.
Why does this kulas even have a hole in it? I mean,
No, usually it doesn't.
That's what I was going to say.
If it had a hole, then it would change the halachic status. If
So
someone
if it
drilled
had
a
a
hole,
it's like a broken bone?
yeah.
So isn't it in the vela then?
No, it's a nevela anyway. It's a dead animal. We find this kulas
it's
laying on the
laying
side.
in the vela, right.
The question, and there's marrow inside the bone. With the X-rays, we found that. Whatever. But if you lift it up, the Mishnah says yatar. If you touch it, yatar. If you lift it up, yatar, because it's not flesh, and the bones of an nevela aren't tummy. The question is, Rabbi Shmuel held that if you lift up a hide of an animal, if it has two half a zaysim on it, it's considered like you lifted a kazayas.
And you
become tummy. So if you lift up a kulas, you should also be tummy. Or,
kulas by definition has a kazayas.
Well, that's what we're imagining now. Let's leave it. We're imagining that it has a kazayas. We'll see later. Okay. So Amarlei, this is a question that Rav Avia Saba is asking Rav Huna. What is Rabbi Yishmael's opinion? Does he hold that if it's entirely closed, it's tahar, as the Mishnah says, or does he argue with the Mishnah? So Amalei Urva Parach. Look, a raven is flying. He's trying to distract him, like to change the topic. So Amalei Rava Brei. So Rava, Rav Huna's son, says, maybe it's Rava, says to his father.
Why is he avoiding?
He says, "V'lav hainu Rav Avia Saba These the mashbachal mar begavei the gav Rabbo. Is that not Rav Avia Saba, the one that from Pumbedisa, the one that you've praised regarding him that he's a great man? Why are you not answering him?" So Amalei, he responded, "Ani hayem samchuni ba'ashishas. Today I'm tired." And the boy Menei Milsa, the boy Taima, he asked me something that requires reasoning. I'm not able to answer him today. So what does it mean, samchuni ba'ashishas? Samchuni means let me lean. Ba'ashishas has different meanings. Or it means support me. Ba'ashishas could mean cakes, give me something to eat. Or it could also mean some sort of trunk.
Some sort of
trunk or some sort of what is it?
No, Marie Antoinette. Let me cake.
No, this is a different. However, on the side, the Aruch says that today they appointed him to be the head of the yeshiva, and that's why he was tired. That's why he was tired. Okay, so he wasn't able to answer. Amar Ula. So now we're going to ignore this. Ula says, Shnei chatzai zaysim, 2 half olive sizes of flesh, nevela, shetachvan bekesim, that are put together on a spit or on a toothpick. Afilu mailach mevi kalayim kulitar. Even if you move it all day, you're tahar. My timer. What's the reason for that? It's ksiv v'nisa, karina noise. It says, if you read it, it doesn't have a vav in the word. When it says hanaisei is nevlasim, someone that carries an avela. So it doesn't have a vav, so it could be read nisa, means that it's carried. But in a noisei v'hu de nisa v'vasachas. It's carried, but it needs to be able to be carried as one. The nisa, the nisa is telling me that you need to be able to lift it, and it's a kazayas without any other assistance. Okay. Tanan.
For masa, it does.
The maga is a different problem. The maga you can't touch. That was a machlekes Rav Arpada and Rabbi Yechanan. If yesh negeya v'chaysev negeya.
I thought the Mishnah says that it does.
The Mishnah says that it's not. That it's. The Mishnah said that it's tahar, but Arpada said that's only because you're touching the hide. So.
Yeah, it says.
Yeah, that's Rabbi Akiva.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Very good. Rabbi Akiva. Okay. Rabbi Akiva says, we're going to see that. Tanan, if you have on it 2 half olive sizes of flesh, mitama b'masa v'lei b'magitz. Mitama, it makes you impure for lifting it, but not for touching it. Div Rabbi Yishmael. Gemara asks, Samai, b'lav nisu, it's not attached. That's not, it doesn't combine. Amar Rav Papa b'merudad. Talking about that it is attached, but it's by a very thin sliver of meat that it's really attached. So when you touch it, you're not really touching one, but nevertheless it's attached. It's a very hard answer, because if it's attached, then why, when you touch it, then you touch the whole thing? It needs to be attached by a thicker amount. Tashima, come and listen. Maider Rabbi Kiva, this is your Gemara. Maider Rabbi Kiva, Shnei Chatzai Zeisim. Rabbi Kiva agrees that if you have two half olive size, shetachim b'kesim v'sitin shutamik, that if you move it, heset of a nevela is also tamei. If you move it, and it's stuck, these two half olives are stuck to a toothpick, a little splinter. Amai, that he's tamei. Why is he tamei? Valav nisahu, but you can't carry it in one go. So the Gemara says, this is actually also attached. It's very thin, a sliver, but it's attached. So it says kitanai. This is actually a machlekes tanai. Echad negev, echad mesit. Whether someone touches the nevela or whether someone moves the nevela is tamei. Rabbi Lezer Reimer. Rabbi Lezer says afanaisi, also someone that carries it. The Gemara asks, atunaisi lav mesitu. If you move it, you're tamei. If you carry it, you're tamei. Why does he have to add if you carry it? You can't carry it without moving it. You're already tamei from the moving it. Rather, he means the following. The first opinion holds that if you move it, even if it's not attached, even if it's two half zaysim, you're tamei. Rabbi Eliezer argues. Rabbi Eliezer says that it needs to be attached, that if you would lift it, it would be as one. So the Gemara says, 1 second, he didn't say that. He says, also someone that lifts it. My af. What does it mean, also? Let's say, read it differently. Read it, v'hu denisa. That's only if he lifts it. Okay.
Oh, af has a different meaning.
Either it has a different meaning, or it's we have to adjust the Bais to say v'hu. Okay. And we have a new Mishnah here.
Oh, perfect time.
Kulas hameis.
Every time.
He's talking about this femur bone of a. This you start off saying that it's of a corpse. We're talking about it gives off tumah.
What exactly? I'm sorry, Rabbi. What is it?
It's the upper leg.
The upper leg.
A big a big bone.
The boca.
Yeah.
Turkey.
Get too distracted. My mind. Got it.
Flintstones. Refresher.
It's chazara. So the rule is that if you have a bone of a dead person, of a corpse, if you touch it, the person becomes tamei. If he touches a bone. So that's the first piece. Kulas hameis. Kulas hamukdashin. This is the bone, the thigh bone of a sacrifice that was pigul or nicer. Now, pigul and nicer really only applies to the flesh. And the sages made the pigul and nicer tamei. That not only you're not allowed to eat it, but it's also tamei. What our Mishnah is saying is that not only is the flesh tamei, but even the bone that held the flesh is also tamei. Anything that assisted, sheshimshu es nicer, that assisted the nicer is also tamei. Hanagea behem, anyone that touches this bone, whether it's from a corpse or whether it's from a carbon that became pigul or nicer, bein stumin bein nekuvim, he's tamei. Whether there's a hole in the bone or whether the bone is complete, it makes a person tamei. Kulas nevela. What about what we've been talking about the whole time? A carcass of a dead animal that wasn't shechted. The kulas hasheretz. Or this bone in a lizard or one of those 8 things that we read about in last week's parsha. And someone touches that bone. Now there's no flesh on the bone. We're talking about it's just the bone. So the Gemara says, stumin tahirin. If the bone is complete, then the person is tar. However, nekuvin, if there's a hole in it, because there's marrow inside the bone, then kolshu, even if it's just a teeny hole, a pinhole, metame b'maga, then if someone touches that bone, he becomes tamei, because it's a shomer. And if you're able to touch, how are you going to touch it through a pinhole? It's through his hair that goes through into the hole, or his beard that sticks into the hole, and that would make him tamei. So therefore, if he touches the other end, he's also tamei because it's considered a shomer.
Wow.
The whole reason of the marrow in the bone is because the marrow is the blood, and
Is
therefore
edible.
it's metame?
No, because that's considered, the marrow is considered flesh.
Because it's considered flesh. Ki adam hu nefesh, or not because of that?
They're not referring to the marrow. They're referring to the fat marrow. You know, the
just the fat that's in there.
yeah. They're not referring to the
blood.
The thick. What's it called?
There's two
What do you
things in
call
there.
that?
There's blood and there's fat. I mean, they're both
Right.
in the marrow.
But what's that hard like
Cartilage.
like
Brownish.
no, that looks like coral type material.
That's the bone.
Uh-huh.
That's the
It's a
trabeculated
soft-
bone.
it's a
that
soft
it
part
has-
It's
of the
softer.
bone.
It's softer than the outside.
Yeah, because that's how the marrow is able to be in there. Otherwise, can't be in the
But the
solid
marrow is
wall.
fat.
Or blood.
Or blood,
But in
okay.
this case, we're talking about the fat.
Okay. So we're talking about the edible part, the part that's
And
considered
that's why you
flesh.
said earlier that they measured the amount of. At some point, we said something.
Yeah,
about
if there's a
measure-
kazayas of fat inside.
something, yeah, because
Could
it
be.
does change after. death.
Yeah.
It's like one of the last things to go, I think, in the aging process of the corpse, like,
Uh-huh.
or even the cachectic animal. It's being used, like fat is
Uh-huh.
being used. It's greatly a diet, uses up the marrow,
Uh-huh.
Doctor.
uses up the fat.
So wrong.
Minayin. From where do we know Shaf B'masa that even if you lift it up, you'll be tummy? How do we know that? Here we said if you touch it. How do you know if you lift it? Talmud Lema Hanagea V'Anaisei. Rather, the Gemara is asking, the Mishnah is saying different. How do we know that you're tahar if it's sealed? So it says someone that touches and someone that lifts. Anything that you can touch makes you tummy if you lift it. If you can't touch it because it's sealed, you also can't lift it. Okay, now we go back to the Gemara. That's the end of the Mishnah. We go back to the first case of the Mishnah to discuss it. We said the bone of a corpse makes a person tummy if he touches it, even if it's closed. There's no hole. Nageya in aval mahilai. Only if he touches it. What about if it's in under the same roof?
Wow.
We know that a dead person, a corpse, is metame ba'oyal. Here we have a bone. Inside it is marrow, but it's sealed. Kazayas of basar ames is metame. If there's
the bone
but here it's
sealed,
just the
there's
bone.
No hole or
There's no hole in the bone. So the Gemara says, "Hey Chidami, what's the case? Idek a kazayas basar. If there is a kazayas basar in it, ba'il nami latami, then he should be tamei ba'il." So maybe this means if there's flesh on the outside of the bone. The Gemara is starting off with. Is there flesh on the bone, then he should be metame ba'il. So the Gemara says, "Deleka kazayis basar." There's no flesh on the bone. Okay, that's the term. It's just a straight bone. What about marrow inside? If there's marrow inside, tuma bekas va'ila. The tuma, you see, this is called tuma ritzutza. Tuma can spread out of something and just go straight up. There are certain things that could stop the tuma from going up. That's if there's actually tuma goes out of a klicheres. It just doesn't go into a klicheres.
Oh.
It's interesting. But what would stop tuma if there's a insulation of air of a tefach? You know, this we know about from up north. When you want to in the winter you have to make the windows. So what you do is there's a second set of windows there.
Double
So,
thick.
right.
Okay.
So, but it's
Even
but
the
there's
hurricane windows are made that way.
Yes, but I'm talking about we are in between. There's about 4 inches of space in between. It's just they're both thin windows, thin glass. It breaks with your tennis ball. But I know. But
The
air is the insulation. So the air insulates the tumah. If you have a tefach above the tumah, then the tumah doesn't spread up. That's considered an oil and it stops the tumah. Over here, if you have marrow inside the bone, there's no insulation. The tumah just spreads right out. right? It's a bad thermos, or something. It just goes straight out. So, ba'il nami l'tami. If the tumah goes straight out and you have a kazayas basar inside, there's nothing stopping the tumah from going out. It should be tami ba'il. The Gemara answers, "Deleka kazayas mayach b'fneim." Okay, easy. There's no kazayas. That's why we know it's only tummy if you touch it. And touching a bone makes you tummy without a kazayas. A bone makes you tummy. But we're looking to make a tummy in the oil. For the oil, we need a kazayas. We said there's no kazayas. The Gemara now asks an interesting question. There's a machlokes. If there's a little bit of marrow inside, the Gemara has a discussion. If, let's say, that the body would be alive, would it be able to regenerate the flesh around the bone based on the marrow that's inside the bone? In other words, if there's any marrow left in the bone, then there's a possibility that the bone could regenerate itself if it was alive, if the body was alive, and it would regenerate and start to grow the flesh back around it. That's a possibility.
It's the original stem cell theory in the Gemara.
Right.
Wow.
So if there's mayach mi b'fnim, then in mal aruch mi b'chutz, then aver ma'al yehi, then that's considered a real. We're not considering it flesh. Now we're giving it a different term. We're calling it an aver. An aver is a full organ, a full limb, a full limb, and a full limb also makes a person tummy. Now, if it could heal, then we should be considering it an organ or a limb, and it should make him tummy. So ba'il nami l'tami should be tummy not because of the flesh, but it's because it's an aver ma'alya. It's a full organ, and a full organ is metame ba'il. Amar Rav Yehuda Breder Rav Chia Zaysemeres Rav Yehuda the son of Rav Chia says this tells us that just because there's marrow inside, it does not mean that it's going to heal with the flesh around it. But Mayu Kimta, how did we just establish this? It's incredible.
Wow. They didn't even know what they were talking about.
Wait for it, doctor. Come on, doctor.
I'm like,
Wait for it, there's more. Keep together, man.
I'm falling off my chair.
Keep strong.
But Mayu Kimta, how did we just establish this? The leka kazayas. We said that there's no kazayas of marrow inside. Yihachi, if that's the case, so let's read the next case of the Mishnah. The Makdashin, if it's a bone that of a sacrifice that became nevela, we say that not only does the flesh, that became nicer or pigul, a bone of a sacrifice that became nicer or pigul, we say not only does the flesh give off a rabbinic tumah of nicer and pigul, because we don't want people to hang around with it. We want it to be destroyed. So we say that it's impure, that way they'll destroy it quicker. So, but not only that, but even the bone that assists it is also tameh. Amayma tameh. Why is it giving off tameh? There's no kazayas there. We just established that there's no kazayas of maya. Why is this tameh? Visu, and let's go further in the Mishnah. If you say that there's no kazayas here, kulis nevela. What about the femur of a dead animal, of a carcass? The kulis hasheretz, or of this lizard, or the same thing. Kinikfu, if there's a hole in it, we say that there is tameh. Amayma tameh, why is it giving off tameh? We said the whole Mishnah before, you need to have a full kazayas to give off tameh. There's no kazayas. Gemara says halekasha. It's not a problem. Reisha, the leka kazayas, seifadika kazayas. We're going to divide up the Mishnah talking about different instances, different scenarios. The first one, there's no kazayas. That's why it's not metame ba'il. But then, as you read on the Mishnah, all of those cases have a kazayas. Gemara says, "Amay kamashmalan." So what are you telling me? That if you don't have a kazayas, it's not metame ba'il. If it does have a kazayas, those other things are metame b'maga or b'mas. The Mishnah is basically telling me nothing. If you're going to change the scenarios for each case, I have no chiddush here. The Gemara answers, "Mili kamashmalan." Actually, you do have a chiddush. Each case has an individualized chiddush here. If you go through it, each one is teaching me something special. Reisha kamash malan. What's the chiddush of the reisha of the corpse that doesn't have a kazayas inside? The mayach mi b'fnim einamala arucha mi b'chutz. The chiddush is that it doesn't heal. It won't create the bone, the flesh outside of the bone, just because it has the marrow inside. Mukdashin Maikamashlan, what's the chiddush of the karban that became nicer? That shimish nicer milsi, that's something that assists the nicer. It means the bone that could be used to hold the flesh is also tamei midrabanan. The Amar Mari Baravua, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, because Mari Baravua, Rav Mari Baravua, says the name of Rabbi Yitzchak, Atzamis Kadshim Shashim Shnaiser Metamenas Yedayim Hayel Venasis Basis L'Davar Aser. The bones of Kadshim that assist Nicer. In other words, you use the bone to hold the flesh. So that is Metames Yedayim. It makes the hands tamei because it's a basis, it's a support for something that's forbidden, for Nicer or Pidl. That's a concept from Shabbos, a basis. Something that supports, something that's muktzah.
It's all midrabanan.
It's all midrabanan, yeah. Next, chiddush of the Mishnah, nevela. We said that there's a kazayas there, so we asked what's the chiddush if there's a kazayas of nevela, they become tamei if you can touch it. Afagav dik kazayas, even though there is a kazayas, but you're only tamei, nikva in, lay nikva lay. That if there's no hole, then you don't become tamei just from touching the bone, and it's not considered a shaymer and all of that. Abaya says, Abaya argues on this one fine point. According to Rava, if there's a marrow inside, it doesn't make the flesh grow on the outside. Abaya says no, it does.
Right? Or do the Rabbi
Rabbi Yehuda Breder Reb Chia says that this must be telling me that Mayach ben B'fnim Eina Mal Aruchim B'chutz. So came along Rava and said that there's no chiddush of our Mishnah except I'm sorry, I said Rava already. It's not. It's just that was the stomach of the Talmudah that said that mili kamash malan. That the chiddush of the Reisha is that it's Eina Mal Arucha. Thank you. Eina Mal Arucha. Maybe Rava's coming up. I have Rabbi. Okay. So the chiddush of the Mishnah, thank you. The chiddush of the Mishnah is that it doesn't heal the flesh on the outside. Abaya says no, it does. That mayach mi b'fnim is mal aruchim b'chutz. So why over here? Here's a problem. If that's the case, so why when you bring it into the house, doesn't it make the house tummy because it's an aver? If it can heal, it's considered. If it would have been alive, it could heal. It's considered an aver. The Gemara answers, "V'chamayaskin b'shashafa." We're talking about that it was scraped around the outside of the bone, and if you scrape the outside of the bone, then it doesn't heal.